What's going on, y'all? This is your girl, Brie Undeniably, checking in for another episode of my speaker series, Deep Conversations with Dope Individuals, where we're discussing development, decision-making, and a dedication to purpose. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can see that I'm here with the super dope individual, Shaily Hakimian. Shaily, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brie, for having me. I'm excited to be a part of your dope world. It's going to be fabulous.
Absolutely. I am super excited to jump into it. Before we do, I like to get my shout outs out in the beginning. So, first and foremost, as I said, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening wherever you get your podcasts, you'll see that I am in a great space. This is Gotham Podcast Studio. They are doing all the audio and video recording for this, as well as providing space, and they are awesome. So shout out to Gotham. Second, shout out to MC Kicks. They have supported me and sponsored me since day one. If you are looking for any customized kicks, denims, really any type of merch that you want custom, hand painted, you can go to MC Kicks. They do all of your customizable streetwear. You can find them at EMCEEKICKS. And if you add a .com at the end, you're going to get to their website. They have a brand new website as well, so check that out. It's looking great, and show them some love. Finally, when you are doing your own thing, you got to pump your own stuff up. So if you have not checked out my website, brieundeniably.com, not only will you be able to find your dope individual merch there, which goes with the podcast, your I Am Possible merch, but you're also going to see everything else that I am doing. So speaking engagements, coaching, counseling, different workshops, everything is all going to be found on my website there. If you're looking to do anything with in the emotional wellness space or anything in personal development, check out my website. We'll see if I can do anything for you. And I appreciate that support. All right. Shaily Hakimian, welcome once again. I am going to give you the introduction that you deserve, and then we're going to kick into it.
I love it.
All right. So Shaily started doing social media for her hobby community in high school on MySpace. She didn't.
Who remembers it, right? Were you on there?
I sure was. MySpace was, for me, it was middle school, and then Facebook was high school. So when I went to high school, I remember Facebook was just for college kids. And then like by mid high school, it was for everyone.
Yes, you'd get those invites.
Yes.
But it's true. MySpace changed my life. But it's a big part of my journey.
We're definitely
it's yours too. I don't know.
We're definitely going to talk about it. Let me keep going down here. So she didn't realize that what she was doing on social media until after college, when she saw a question on a job application asking if she had ever managed an online community, and she realized there was something there. Very interesting. So Shaily graduated from Indiana University with a degree and certification in elementary ed, K through 6, and she now uses those mad teaching skills to lead workshops with business owners, one-on-one training them in social media, and has coached 200 plus B2B consultants on how to use LinkedIn to grow their businesses. She guides businesses on how to stay top of mind with their community and referral network using social media. And she holds them accountable by boosting their confidence in themselves, what they have to offer, and their own social media abilities. She loves live streaming, event social media, live tweeting, and comment engagement. Shaily, welcome again.
Oh, who is that lady that you're talking about? Yes, I love all of that stuff. It's so very true. Thank you for that introduction. I have a lot of fun. I like to have a lot of fun in all the adventures I do.
We've already started it out with a bang, so I'm super pumped. I know I already complimented you, but just so it's on the camera, this jacket is everything. Like, you are bringing, for sure, the top outfit I have ever seen on my podcast.
Oh,
100%.
yes.
Like, I'm just looking at it. I can see the camera. Its faces me, so you're just like glowing there, and I love it so much.
Thank you. It's gonna be in your merch store today, right? No, I'm just kidding.
The Shaily special
logo. I have a sequin closet at home. This is like a fun fact. Like, everything in it is sequin. There's like 30 some pieces in there, and I was like, I should just where do I get to wear these? I'm like, I should wear these when I talk to people and see what happens. So your reaction is delightful.
It's amazing. I love it so much.
Yes.
Well, Shaily, we have obviously you and I have communicated before this, but I've kind of given you a rundown of how this goes, and I want to know about you. So the way that I really like to start the podcast is in the counseling community. We like to meet our clients where they're at. I think it's really beneficial to do the same thing in the podcast community so that my listeners can understand a little bit more about you. So if you could please help us meet you where you're at.
Oof. Meet me where I'm at. You know, this is interesting. This week of all weeks, my family's been through some things. We got some car accident situations. So my life has not been the typical, right? Typical, I get up, I go, I work, I slam keyboards all day, but some of us do that, try to get stuff done for clients and whatnot. And this week that all flipped on its head because my mom got into an accident. And
so
I know, she's fine. Okay, everybody, she's fine. She's great. Thank goodness for insurance. So I've been at home taking care of her, which is like a scary reality. But one of the things that like I hope I can keep consistent in my life, because this is literally where I'm at this week in this moment, is that like I am like in the startup world, we use the term like minimum viable product. It's the minimum thing you can build to like show something. And I'm like, I want a minimum viable Shaily. Like, what is the minimum I have to do this week so I can take care of my mom and like get stuff done for the people I need to worry about, which is my clients. And then maybe taxes, because like you're listening to this, I don't know when you're listening to this, taxes are hard. So if you haven't done them, do them. But that's exactly where I am today. But what I think is really, what I've worked really hard for is how do we create a life where I can do what I need to do like this week, right? Where this happened and I just had to shift. And I'm really grateful that I've built that. Granted, I probably have a lot of privilege in that. Not everyone can do that, but I like hope that whatever I've done this month and last month, I can sustain. In business, I'm sure, Bree, you know, things come and go and change, but we try our best to keep it consistent. But it's the crazy world we live in. So that is literally where I'm at this exact moment. The life to get me here, that's another story, but it's all connected.
Well, we will get there too. But man, I appreciate you just being so candid and really letting us know where you're at, because that's always so important to bring that into the conversation, because depending on what's going on in your life right now is also going to dictate, you know, how the flow of everything else is going to happen around you. So
100%.
In this point, it's going to be the podcast, but in general, it's pretty great. Like you said, what was it? You said a minimum viable Shaily, like Shaily. I'm sorry, and I just thought it's really true though. Like that's one of those things where it's like sometimes you actually need to figure out how to be one version of yourself in order to get other things done. Sometimes you have to shape shift literally to
100%. Yeah. You do, and it's like life is happening. There was something I was gonna say. I love this. It's hard and not, you can't always design that, but it's good to know that it's possible and that it could be. Oh, this is the other thing I was gonna say. I have a joke that I believe I have written because I think I'm funny in this joke. I don't know, you'll let me know. But when it comes to like people like, so, you know, what's the difference between having a job and having a business? I'm like, in a job they tell you which 40 hours you want to work, and with a business you get to pick which 80 hours you want to work. Okay, she laughed. It's good. And like, that's the reality, is that like you have the flexibility of being a business owner, but there's always a million things to do. I was talking to someone else earlier today. She's got an infinite checklist, and it's tricky, but you know what? It also gave me the opportunity to be flexible this week when I needed it most. So it comes with pros and cons. I'm glad I chose this life, and I hope you're happy with the life you chose too, because I know you're empowering so many good people.
I sure am, but you know, you're spot on. I love the joke one. totally your original. It's so true. There's never a stopping point unless you're choosing to, you know, put in your breaks and put in your, you know, like actually scheduling in that time for yourself to either break or to end the day, or to make sure you give yourself, you know, other moments of peace and you know, not just work, but the work does not stop when it's your business. That is for sure. There's no clock in, there's no clock out. You might lose sleep because of it, because
it's a warning.
Yes, it feels like you're on the clock 24/7, just because we're building. Every business is building. So whether you're in the, you know, the just starting out phase, or you're in the growing phase, or you're in the scaling phase. I know there's actually a map that actually outlines
Oh,
this. I might not
yeah.
have them all, but whatever phase you're in, you're still growing. And when you're still growing, that means there's things to do to make it grow. And when there's things to
Always.
do to make it grow, it's going to be
Always.
in your head. How do I make it grow? How do I continue this path? How do I continue this growth? So
Yes, it
nonstop.
doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It does not stop sometimes. But you know, you can try to make it stop. You can make decisions about it. I think I listened to an episode with you and Dr. Sharon, and she was like,
Oh, yeah.
have your lunch break in the middle of 2 surgeries. And I'm like, I am not a doctor, but I like that idea.
Yeah.
Decide what time you want to spend where. So anyway, there's lots of good nuggets in your other episodes, and I so appreciate it.
I love that you listened to my episode with Dr. Sharon, because that was when I was not podcasting at Gotham. I was actually still podcasting in my bedroom.
It was still great, by the way. And Gotham adds magic sprinkle juice on there. Here.
Yeah, for sure. It's so funny though, because that was probably, I have to go back and watch that episode or listen to that episode as well, because I'm sure that there's so much that I've seen with my growth from there to now. So pretty cool.
I love it. And even in the last 2 months, this is the beginning to know each other. I'm sure a lot has happened. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, Shaily, I feel like you and I could just talk and talk and talk forever, which is not a bad thing. I mean, like, you are the best type of guest, because I don't need to come in with those, awkward pause questions. Like, okay, let's go on.
That's okay.
That's what I love.
You've done this, so you know. Trust your gut.
That's it.
Confidence. Believe in yourself. I'm going to turn a little bit of your Brie magic onto you.
That's it. Well, I'm super excited to really get into your story. So cool. The way that there's really no other way to start it rather than asking you to start it. Bring us to the beginning, wherever that beginning point might be, and let's journey down the path of Shaily.
What is the path of Shaily? So here's my situation, right? So I know we've got education in our backgrounds, and school was quite the experience for me. And I know you've had some temporary disability situations. So I know you've been through some things of learning how to adapt, and I have too. I was always like the biggest kid in class. Like, I remember being like a 70-pound, 80-pound second grader, and like my friend looked so tiny compared to me, and we're the same age. It was insane. And I remember like getting pulled out for special help because I wasn't reading at the same level as everyone else. I was probably very socially awkward because, I mean, look, kids can get awkward, but like, I did not know how to socialize. Making friends was hard. It came with bullying. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, right? And, I don't feel like I really made friends. It was really a struggle. And so when I say MySpace changed my life, what I'm saying is that, like, I didn't really feel super connected to most kids till I was in high school. And the place where I connected the most deeply was finding my fellow tribe of nerds on MySpace. And that's what you were sharing earlier, right? Is that I found people who like the same weird thing that I did, which is like reality shows like Big Brother and Survivor. I don't know if you've watched either of them.
Watched them both.
You've watched them both? This never happens.
Back in the day, though. Back in the day, I have.
Oh, we gotta pull you back. It's so good.
I haven't watched any recent seasons, but I'm saying when they came out, though. So if we're actually talking about like the era of MySpace, I feel like that was kind of when they were coming out, Big Brother and Survivor, and I was pretty
2000. So it came out 2000. MySpace was later.
Okay, so
2005-ish. It's close. It's
okay.
You're right.
Early 2000s.
Totally right.
Yeah.
Early 2000. I think you're right. You've taught me something. You're like, oh yeah, they were kind of along. I didn't think about that, but I love it. And so I found nerds that like my shows, and then that's when I ended up making my first like real friends, and it was like life changing. And then one of the things that I'm really good at is I like to find like the problems. I'm like, let me find problems that I can solve. Like, I like to see what's going on and figure out the problems here. And so I noticed that we had this like nerdy community. We used to play online Big Brother and Survivor. People are now listening to this and being like, that's a thing. And I'm like, it's a thing. And there's a video on my YouTube that explains this weird hobby in 6 minutes, and it's adorable. So I was like, we need a community to promote ourselves. And what they were doing is they were like spamming. You've seen spammers on like Facebook groups and things, right? They were spamming these other MySpace groups, being like, join our game. People just literally wanted to talk about the TV show. They didn't care about these competitions. And I was like, why don't we just have our own MySpace group? So Genius Shaily at like 15, 16 years old was like, I'm going to make a MySpace group. And part of that story that you shared earlier is that like, that's, I was this community leader as a teenager. And like you said, when I got that job application, it like hit me that day. I was like, wait, I was doing social media when I was a teenager. Let me leverage that knowledge and get this position. I vagued it up because I didn't want this job to know that I was like doing this weird nerdy thing.
Strategically ambiguous.
You ever done that on a resume?
Yeah, you're strategically ambiguous. You put the words just so, you eliminate the words that don't need to be there to make it look like you have done something to them, to appear to them that might not be exactly what you did.
Well, I was strategic. Yeah, I like the word strategic on that because it's a good survivor word on top of it. But yeah, I didn't want to like, mention like reality shows, but like the skills were there. And I think that's what I tell, like, this is kind of a sidebar, but I tell a lot of young women too, like, just because you, like, when I'm telling them about LinkedIn, I'm like, you've done volunteer, you were doing something on the internet, you were helping, like, there's always something of value to tell people about, and it might not take shape that you expect, but it's still valid and you should still talk about it. So that's my little nugget there. But that one position led to other positions, and eventually, like, a little bit of my story is like, right, I studied education in college, but I wasn't going to be a teacher. I know you're not teaching in the same way anymore, right? A lot of teachers are leaving the industry for a lot of different reasons. It's complicated, but I remember going to like business, like, I think we talk about like, business network. It's the people you're in relationship with. That's usually what starts everything. And going to a business networking group. I don't know if you ever been to a BNI meeting before.
I don't know if I've been to a business networking.
So it's an international thing. Everyone pitches their business. Say, I work here, I work there. Oh, maybe you want to hire me. Maybe your friend wants to hire me. So I went in and I was like, I do social media management. And they looked at me and they're like, they're not prepared to spend the thousands of dollars a month for me to manage their social media. These are small businesses. And I was like, well, why aren't they resonating? And eventually, after going to this group a whole bunch, this lady comes up and she's like, hey, Shaily, I don't want to hire you to do my social media. And I was like, darn. But then she's like, but can I just like pay you to like teach me how to do it? And I was like, wait a second, right? You saw the look on your face, Brie. I was like, wait a second. I studied education. I think you and I both love motivating people, right? And encouraging people. I was like, wait, this might be the perfect position for me. So then that pivoted my entire business to really focusing on teaching social media, which is where I take the teaching skills I learned, my social media skills, and all the love that I had for kids who were like me, and even adults who were like me, loser kids. And like, I don't want to call myself a loser. My therapist, like, don't call yourself a loser kid. I was like, I was just different. Okay. And so like taking all those skills and combining it to what I do now, like kind of helps the little Shaily in my clients, believe in themselves and see more of themselves and see the coolness that they have within their own stories. The same way that I did with my own MySpace journey. It didn't hit me till many years later that it was something special. So that's where I got to today, making people believe in themselves, making people see how amazing they are, that they don't always see themselves, and ideally highlighting that on the internet for their network to see. That's a taste for you.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing. It's always important for me to thank others when they share their story. It's, there's vulnerability there. So I appreciate you sharing all of the pieces that you just did. And secondly, we got to thank this person who was like, I don't want you to do my social media. I want you to coach me or teach me on how to do it. Like, how cool that, like, that totally shifted everything for you. It was like, it was like a perspective shift that like you hadn't even realized. You kind of inserted that nugget that there's always a skill that you could put on that you might not have even realized that you put on. It was like, you're like, wait a second, I went to school to be a teacher. Like, she's asking me to teach her on this thing that I know how to do. This is like all these pieces match together so perfectly.
100%.
Wow.
I love it.
So
when you combine skills, good things happen is what I always say.
Absolutely. So when was this? When was the BNI, or when did that take place?
I want to say it's like 4 years ago where everything kind of shifted. And I've been like working for myself for a long time. Like I've been contracting, freelancing, and then now like more entrepreneuring. I don't even know what to call it. I've had to take care of myself as best as I can with like wherever income used to come from. But yeah, this has been the focus of my work for the last 4 years, and it's been a blast.
Do you think
more people came, so it was great. Other people agreed.
I definitely want to talk about that, the more people coming. But before we get there, I actually do want to rewind a little bit to like that sort of blurry space that you were just sort of describing, like kind of trying to like freelance and do like whatever you could, like just trying to almost like maybe get by. I don't know what the exact words are, but I like to talk about that space too. I think it's always so important for listeners who are like trying to go down an entrepreneurial path, or like trying to start something of their own, or get out of something and go into something new. Like there's always that like itchy, uncomfortable, squirmy, blurry space that none of us really know how to talk about or describe, but I think it's always important to try. So if you could tell us a little bit more about that, and maybe even like what was going like what were your thoughts? What were you trying to do? What was like the goal for you at that point? Was it just like getting by and getting a paycheck, or were you trying to like figure out what your niche was, where you fit?
Ooh, I think I had left college thinking, how can I make, this is the honest truth, how can I make enough money to like take care of myself somewhat stably? I think stability is a really awkward thing for entrepreneurship. And then I was like, how can I do that? And granted, I think it doesn't end, but I think that was my biggest thing. Like, how can I be stable? And so for me, that's what I wanted. And so for me, like part of why I started doing social media, I was like, oh, there's social media. It's blowing up. People are confused by it. There's always going to be a need for it. Like maybe this is a great way to like use my skills while I do my other volunteer things and other fun little things, that all my passion projects. I was like, have this pay the bills and do my passion project. Was it perfectly? Did my plan go as according? Yeah, it was a little choppy. But I had a lot of different like things that were bringing me income, and like miracles would happen. I had like 3 horrible months where like nothing was working out and I wasn't being like paid by a lot of clients and it was just bad. But you know, credit cards are nice sometimes, but
it's true.
It's tricky. And I don't think it's ever gotten perfect, but every year I've gotten closer. But I don't think most people have the years of energy to like suffer into it to like get to where they want to go.
Oh, yes.
We give ourselves that, and I have more thoughts on that too.
Please, you can continue right there, because you just nailed that. Like there is a level of like patience to a degree that you need to be able to flex with incredible discipline to really build in entrepreneurship or a bit whatever you're doing. Please push into it as far as you want.
I will say this, because I think this, I'm sure this is coming from a place of privilege for sure. I don't think everyone probably has this option, but I think it's something potentially for some people to strive for if this is relevant to them. But like one of the things I did after college, well, I had the privilege of living at home, and I got to save a bunch of money because I was really lucky. I was able to save. Was that my plan to live at home? But like I did it, and I saved money, and then I try to I like to hoard cash when I can, just to like have it. I'm like, I've got 6 months of runway. I don't know, start upward runway. Like I'm going to be okay for 6 months if I make $0. And so I hoarded a bunch of money. And so that was sort of subsidizing any month that I wasn't making enough. Like it kind of came from that bucket. And then after like a certain amount of years, that bucket was like, oh, I had this much in there. And I'm like, oh, it looks a lot lower. Okay, this might be making me nervous. And then that 3 months of like horror happened. And then like it slowly started building up, but it was like a lot of anxiety through that. But I was determined to keep going like this. It's like working contracts is like constantly applying for like instead of like it's like the job process is like constant, but like all the projects are much quicker to jump in on, and you can have 3 or 4 of them rather than just one. So there's like pros and cons to all of it. But I think we both have this in common, both from entrepreneurial families. Like I feel like I had this in my system, but I don't know if everyone does. But you know. But it's possible for anybody. So those are some nuggets there. What do you think, Bree? Thoughts? Agree? Disagree? I have no idea.
Totally agree. I'm actually getting like Gary V energy right now. I don't know. just in the way that he will literally, in entrepreneurship specifically, he will say, if you can, you go live at home or live in a shack or move all the way out to nowhere. You don't need to be like you don't need to be in the middle of Manhattan. You can be in a suburb in New Jersey, and you can stack that money and, you know, do what you need to do. So it's basically like you identify where you can cut back on cost, and you do that to whatever extreme you need to be able to subsidize for everything else and build somewhere somehow.
Huge. So I'm like, lifestyle creep is like a dangerous thing, but I see that with so many of my friends who get these like amazing jobs, getting paid way more than I ever did. But then they're like, I hate my job now. And then it's like, oh, but who's going to hire you and pay you that much? And then it's like, but I like my fancy $300 a month gym, and I like my, you know, whatever bajillion dollar Tesla. I don't know. And so I've been pretty good about like, I don't think I live very extravagantly. I probably invest in my business a little bit more than probably people are comfortable with, but like, it's a trade-off, right? I'm very budget conscious when I can be, but also like when it comes to my business, it's a different story. But like I try my best, and it's tricky. But I think I'd rather buy something. I don't know. I'm pretty good about not splurging too much nowadays, but I'm not perfect. Sequin things.
Yes. Exactly. Well, two things you said there. One, I love that term lifestyle creep because that's actually like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've actually heard it said that way.
Oh,
I know the concept and the idea, but I haven't heard it actually being called lifestyle creep, which is really interesting. So it's like when you get used to a certain type of lifestyle, you like basically would not be able to downgrade, so to speak, in your eyes, whatever downgrade means from what you have now.
yep.
Really
I've heard
interesting.
it.
Yeah, really, really interesting concept. So if that's something that like you think you could be in, also try to weigh those pros and cons because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, the lifestyle, what else does that actually bring you? Happiness, joy? Does it bring anything else? Like, does it actually bring like core value moments for you? Does it actually, live out your most virtuous self, your most moral self? Like, what is that lifestyle actually worth for you? So,
Right?
really interesting
Yes.
to consider
Yep.
that for
Food
sure.
today, or paying a bill in 2 years that you didn't know you're going to run out of money for. I don't know. That's probably high pressure, but
Yeah, well, you never know. But I also love that you said that you're like, oh, I might invest a little bit more into my business than people are comfortable with. But your business is your largest investment
yeah,
and asset.
it
Both of
is.
them. You understand that you can put in 2,000 today to get back 6,000 tomorrow.
Goals.
You can,
Goals.
you can put in 5,000 today to get back 20,000 tomorrow. Like you understand that incrementally, and right now it could be, especially if you're starting, it could be $5 to get back
Oh,
10,
100%. Yes.
but
I've been there.
it grows and that compounds. And so when you put in the 5 and then you get back 10, you get back double the return, you now have 10 to work with. So what you can do is then you can put in 7, you increase by 2 units from what you put in before, and you stack that 3 in that stockpile that you had going on when you were living with your parents.
Be the horde.
And then you put in the 7 and then you get back 14. Okay. And then you put in 9 and then you get back 18. So if there's ways to understand like how you build and how you grow. And I just love how you said you invest in your business because you have to. If you're building a business, you have to invest in your business.
It's so scary. I made a TikTok about this because it came to me. I was like, what's your first big, and actually maybe I should just ask you this, like, what's the first big thing you got that scared you a little? And I remember for me, spending $200 on my website company was terrifying. I don't think I got it back for like a couple of years, but I was like, $200, this is crazy. But like sometimes you pay someone a consulting fee of $200 just to talk to for an hour, right? Like it's happened. So it's scary, but like there's a leap there. But I don't know. What was the first big thing you like spent money on that scared you in your business? I'm curious.
So I think when like just putting money in general to my business, it was putting money into advertising for the services that I was doing. So if you're
ads.
So ads and the people that I work with like have had a lot of success with marketing, SEO, that type of thing. So, but putting money into like my getting noticed online was really scary for me.
Yeah. It's a part of it, right?
It was that was really scary for me. But it has paid off tenfold as I had, you put in X amount of dollars into an advertisement, you get back X amount of people, and then you convert those people into clients. So it's a little bit different of what that equation is, but that money definitely returned back to me in a way that has now compounded because it's now in the form of consistent paying clients who also give referrals. So
nice.
Yes. So that's I'll tell you that I think the first time I ever put money into doing I don't even know if it was a Facebook ad or a Google ad or whatever it was. I think it was like $100, which is like nothing compared to like what you could be putting into advertising for, especially if it's like, oh, I want to put $100 and my zone of interest is the entire United States. It's like, okay, well, that's not going to be, there's strategy to it because that won't work. And $100 spread throughout the entire United States over 30 days is like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny.
Yes.
to
You're
get to
hitting it.
people. So there is a science to it and there's levels to it. And then you have to pay to understand, like help people who are marketing and advertising professionals or coaches to help you understand what it is you're doing with that. So, you know, money is getting funneled
100%.
in all different places there, but
Can we hit on this here?
please
I was listening.
go into it.
Dr. Mo was on your show, and I was like, oh, I know her. This is great. I love seeing people I know on other people's shows. I'm like, she's fabulous. And she does a lot with ad stuff. And so one of the things that I'll say with ads, like I've had people come to me and they're like, oh, I accidentally lost $600 in like ads on like, I don't know, Google, Facebook. I don't know what it was. And it's like, it's my money all right now. And I was like you said, like not having someone that you can, this is general for business, like trusting the right people to like help guide you on that, because it's a big black hole if you don't know what you're doing. And I'm going to be honest with you, Brie, I have never, I don't think I've ever paid for like a Google ad or a Facebook ad. That is, but I know some people rock at that and that's their life. So it is an interesting thing, but it can be a huge door opener, but you have to know what your game plan is or else it could be horrifying. I'm sure you have to probably lose a little bit of money before you get something out of that.
There's definitely loss involved. Unfortunately, that there will be loss involved. But for me overall, ads have been incredibly successful. But it goes hand in hand with the people that you're working with. And I think it's so interesting because like coaching at this point is so niched and there's like a coach for everything. And it's twofold, because one, it's like, do I really need a coach to help me, you know, do this in this market, in this field, at this place in my life? And then it's like, so it can be super, super, super focused, but if the coach in that place in your life, in that market, in that field is actually the expert and they actually can help you nail the one goal you're trying to get to, then it's important to hire that expert in that very, very specific place, because that's how you get return on your investment.
Exactly. And I think you're hitting it right, is that there's a million people for all the stuff, just like you said. And it's like you have to know for yourself, like what is a little bit of the idea of like what space it is. Because there's a lot of good salespeople out there that can sell you a million different programs and promise a lot of things that some they can fulfill and some they can't. And I remember thinking back to a client of mine, since you're in the therapy and mental health space, right? I have a client who has a therapy practice in Georgia, absolutely lovely, right? And, you know, she was looking into an agency. Actually, this agency had interviewed me on their show, and then she wanted to hire them, but she was nervous. And it's like the biggest thing I see, especially at least in my space, is I'm using the word, my space of social media, is that people don't always understand what they're getting themselves into. They don't understand how social media works. So there's like the freelancer, which I've been the freelancer before, where I was just like, I can post, okay, it's, you know, funny joke Tuesday. And like, I can post, oh, happy, you know, be a pirate day, or like whatever, or like maybe curating some really relevant articles, because that's the baseline. And if the person who managed me didn't have a plan or didn't have a vision or didn't have a goal, they're not going to get out what they hope from that social media. They're maintaining, which for some businesses you need to just maintain. And they don't understand how that all goes together. In my world, what happens is, like, just like we said, relationships, connections, all of this stuff, they have that. They've made friends with lots of really good people that know and love and trust them, but they're not staying in touch with them, or they don't. And then they know on top of that, the social media, oh, it's buzzword, it's exciting, I'm supposed to be doing this. And then they do stuff and nothing happens. And it's because what they're putting out there doesn't actually move the needle, or their freelancer just knows how to like come up with random ideas because their leader hasn't told them what to do. And so like, I like to think there's first off, the leader needs to understand how social media works, and the freelancer doesn't always necessarily understand how business works. And so I feel like I'm the translator between those two worlds, because if you don't speak the same language, you're not going to get what you want out of it. And if you don't have a plan, you're not going to know what you want. So I think that's where I like to come in. And this particular lady that I was working with, the therapy company, the agency probably did a great job. They know how to post, they know how to do stuff, but if she didn't feed them with like ideas, they weren't going to get as much traction as she would hope, because just doing the social media alone wasn't worth it. In her situation, I was like, social media, maintain it, because you're supposed to have it, just leave it be. They're charging you a fair rate, let it go. Your thing is SEO, because all of her clients kept coming from SEO, but she wasn't, and I know you're good at this because you have a pop-up on your website, but she wasn't capturing any emails. So unless they were ready to buy a therapy session immediately or call them, they weren't going to actually do anything. And I was like, you got to capture those people. And she didn't understand that. And I think her website people were trying to explain to her, they're like, hey, you should be doing something like this. And like, obviously they're not teachers, right? But when I came in, I could explain it to her. She now not only understood how it worked, but she now was empowered because she could push the buttons like she's been doing her entire career to put everything in place the way it needed to. Because now she understands how all of these work together, not just from like, oh, here's technology, but how it works in a connecting to humans way that can sustain her not only just right now with technology knowledge, but whatever the technology will be in 20 years.
Right.
And that to me is what I love. Just bridging that world for them. It's fun.
I love that example. Like, I think you just like really outlined it and detailed it, because you kind of like, you really are, you teach people how to use it correctly, how to actually understand like what the purposes are for X, Y, and Z in social, like whatever their social platform is, because yeah. And the email thing, I thought that is like just a side nugget that's so important to talk about, because the email marketing, like when it's so huge. And you said just collecting those emails, like even if you get someone on the phone and you know that, like, we consider that a warm lead, essentially.
Sure,
if you're, if you're talking to someone on the phone and they're looking for services, and if they directly contacted you, you can still ask them for their email, and that means you put them on your list, and then you know that at one point they had interest. So even if they don't sign you in that moment, you do a weekly newsletter or a weekly campaign of sorts. Super simple through MailChimp or anywhere you can do it, but you literally just automate this email. You start building your email list of all these people that you had potentially talked to, and maybe this warm lead who you didn't sign in that moment, you got their email on the phone, you added them to your email list. They've been getting your newsletters for the past 6 months, and they're now in a different place than they were in 6 months. And at that point, not only are they're now ready, but you've built up your credibility through them, through email marketing, and they're like, now I want to sign this person. One, I'm in a different place in my life. I definitely need their services.
Exactly.
Two, I see what great work that they're doing over the past 6 months, and they are for sure the person for me. They call you back up. You get the client. Like, that's so. It's such a game that we're playing. It is a game. Like, you have to know how to play the game and move the pieces around and put your part into it so that you can make the goal, essentially,
Yes. And the thing is that this is what the other piece, right? This is the bridge, is that a lot of people understand it intrinsically, that like when you have a group of people that already know and like you, and you show up and they see you, they remember you, right? Like, that's a real thing, right? If you go to the same like party every month or the same group every month, like, people get to know you better. And this is exactly what happens in the real world, just digitized. And if you can keep that in your head, there's a lot of different tools in which you can achieve that. But that's the thing you need to keep in your head. It's not just like, how does MailChimp work? Like, that's one part of the problem, but it's how are you feeding the right information to the right people? And some of these people, they maybe they don't have ads, but they have like 100 people in their local community that can be their referral partners. You might already have that list in your heart, or maybe some other platform, but it's feeding them the information they didn't know they needed on a regular, consistent basis, which is what you were saying.
Yes.
And that's as simple as it has to be for people. A lot of people probably potentially not experts like you who know how to push buttons on ads. Sometimes they're like, everybody, I'm like famous to like people in person, but nobody knows me on the internet. That's the simple core of the whole exact thing. They can repeat that through postcards if they want. They can do it on Twitter. They can do it on wherever their people are. You can do it. But email, like you said, some of the most valuable stuff. You get someone's email, you can potentially keep that forever. Facebook can kick you off. YouTube can kick you off. Every platform can kick you off. Email is very cool. It's weirdly valuable. And I don't think, did you believe, did that shock you when you first learned that? Because I was like, wait, you're right. Like, when somebody explained that to me.
Yeah, it totally shocked me when I realized. I actually listened to a podcast on it, and the name of the podcast is slipping my mind at this point, but it was some entrepreneurial podcast, trying to learn like all the tricks of the trade, really just like full on information dumping to try to understand, like, okay, how do I do this? Literally, like, what's an ad? What is MailChimp? Like, exactly what you're saying, like those tiny pieces.
Part of it.
But hearing the large scale pieces and then understanding like the power of email marketing, exactly what you said. Yeah. Facebook is not mine. Instagram is not mine. TikTok is not mine. Whatever social media I use is not mine, and it might change and transform. Email is consistent. It's steady. An email marketing list, it's going to continue. Like, our email addresses, I mean, there's might be shifting in how email happens in the future, I guess, but in general, like, the email address that you collect is going to be a piece of gold for you as you start to build it. To you get 10, and then you get 100, and then you get 1,000, and then you get 50,000 people on your email over 10 years based on warm leads of people who are interested in your services. If you are if you are weekly speaking to an audience that you have grown to 50,000 people every week, that like it's right there for you. But that comes back to patience. That comes back to, you know, that playing the game, so to speak. The game is patience. The game is waiting. The game is doing your consistent effort and planting seeds. That's it. That's it. I mean, there's so much we could talk about right now.
I'm sure we could talk all day about it.
So many different directions.
That's the dedication it takes to make it happen. So.
It's so true. And I feel like we're just kind of like really spewing out important information for people to take into, just like here and there, which is awesome.
Oh yeah.
I want to know, for you, what do you feel like is the most powerful part of what you are doing with your business? So and give me, let me know again. So you do, like, what is the actual title that you use? Is it social? Or you don't have a title specifically, or you wear many hats?
Lead Sherpa. I sometimes they're like, "What's your title?" I'm like, "Lead Sherpa." Let's be funny about it.
I love it.
Chief motivational officer. I don't know. I make them up. Like, I'm like, what is my mood today?
How do you market yourself to potential clients though? Well, I
live on LinkedIn, but I say be unforgettable in 100 days is one of my taglines.
Very cool. I like that a lot.
That's a fun one.
I like that.
Yeah, with me, like the whole thing is that like I want them to build the system, right? Mm-hmm. So there's something where like if somebody new, let's say they're at a speaking engagement live or somebody who they meet at a networking event, whatever system it is, they can capture that information, maybe get them on an email list, depending on the client. Every client's a little different. And have a way to show up to them in a way that shows off how cool they are. And that's, I think, the thesis that goes through everything I do. So if I ever taught a kid math, if I ever like helped a kid that I was a substitute for that didn't believe in themselves, like the adults I work with, is like I help them see what they don't always remember is so special about themselves. Right? Like, like some of the stuff I've shared with you today, I'm like, oh, that's just information from my brain. But maybe somebody listening to this is like, holy cow, Shaily, you just blew my mind. Like, I have no idea how valuable it is. But when I can highlight that for other people and say, hey, your story about why you want to create, like, I have a guy who wants to create a really cool platform for a community he's in because of like a lot of hatred that his community has faced. And there's a story there. And I'm like, well, have you ever told people that story before? And he's like, well, I haven't. I'm like, well, how are people going to get to know you and trust you if they don't know why you care or why this matters or your hopes and dreams for it? So it's pulling that story out of people and letting that shine so that other people can connect. Because like I always say this is like, people are way cooler than they show up on the internet because they don't know what to tell people about. They don't know to tell their story. They don't know to tell stories about clients. They don't know to tell tips and tricks about whatever the heck they're doing. So that is a piece of this, is making them see how special they are when they don't always see it for themselves.
I love that. I love that so much. I think that like you nailed it. That's exactly what I was looking for, hoping for. So you answered that question spot on.
So I can keep my job. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So keep doing what you're doing. You definitely passed the test, and I'm sure there was going to be plenty of awesome, stellar feedback to this episode, telling you that you also passed the test with flying colors.
That's great. Right? No. And it's, helping people believe in themselves, right? They're cool people out there. They don't always know how to shine.
That's so...
there is another mission, Brie. I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
I think I was saying earlier, like college, like especially, I don't know what it is with young women in college and in high school. I've done some workshops in that space. Again, they don't know how to validate some of their cool experiences, and like their LinkedIn profiles like don't have any interesting stories. It's like, I interned here, I did this boring thing. I'm like, no, tell me. I'll tell you the story about one of my interns. She's like, I asked, because I do this extraction session with like every client, whether it's a student or like a business owner, whatever, where I extract stories from them. And I was like, well, why do you care about wanting to work in events or what happened? And she's like, well, I remember my Sweet 16. Did you have a Sweet 16?
I did.
I had one. Oh,
I sure did.
Those were the days. And she's like, well, I had the Sweet 16 and I like, is it weird that I almost had more fun planning it than I did just like attending it? And I was like, wait a second, tell me more. And like, I told her, I'm like, why is this story not all over your resume or LinkedIn profile? I made her put it on there. The next day, she had an interview with like an events company and she told them the story, I guess, as part of the interview. She told me she got hired. I was like, get it, girl. That tells me so much about you.
There it is.
That's the thing. I want to pull out of people.
I love it. So great. It's so awesome. And clearly you're doing that. And like you have the energy to bring that out of anyone too. And I think that's what's awesome. It's like you're magnetizing.
Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome. We do only have 10 minutes left, so we are gonna. I know. I really wish we could keep
all
going.
Day.
Literally all day. But we are gonna push into the final section of the podcast. Just a fun, quick little rapid fire round. I also want to know your thoughts on purpose, because this podcast does come down to purpose, and I think it's really important to talk about. So first, tell me your thoughts on purpose. Then we're gonna go into a rapid fire round, and then we're gonna let you finish off your final thoughts, all in 10 minutes.
Purpose can be tricky. Someone asked me this, and it's helping people see what they didn't see about themselves. It kind of goes back to that. I think she asked me, she's like, what's the thing? Like, what's your, I don't know what, let me see if I can find the words she said. She's something about like, what is your passion statement? What is your vision? What is your mission? Was it mission statement? I don't know. She called it what I'm called to do in life, right? He said, I love helping people prove their limitations wrong and getting to watch themselves grow in ways unimaginable, helping people find their voice, amplify their awesomeness. Yeah, that's what it is.
I love it.
I love that. And maybe that's a one-on-one thing, and that's cool. Maybe it's somebody who sees me at a talk. I love helping people see more of their possibilities because of an interaction with me. Am I perfect? No. But do I empower people to show off a little bit more of their coolness? Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Yeah. Rapid fire round, really quick.
Rapid fire, let's go.
We talked about the beginning, development, decision-making, dedication to purpose. That's what these questions are on. First is on development, currently right now in this moment. Are you working more on personal development or professional development?
Oh, gosh. Probably personal. I found out I have a disability that I didn't know about, and so now I'm like, how do I handle this, and what medications will be helpful for this? So I think that is my project.
Hey,
which applies to business in the end, ultimately.
And we continue to learn more and more about ourselves as we grow through life. So now it's on to the continued growth of personal development.
I think so. Yeah, I'm proud of where I've gotten this year and this last few months too, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to breathe and hold on because it feels good right now.
Yeah.
Let's hold on to it as long as we can, and maybe forever. We'll see. TBD. This is business. So you never know.
Oh, man. Okay. So the next one is decision-making. So when you're making decisions, do you base more of your decisions on choice, meaning you follow numbers or analytics, or guiding voice, meaning you follow gut feeling, intuition, spirituality, or something else of the sort? Choice or guiding voice?
Would say something. He's like, Shaily, you're terrible at decisions. And I'm like, he told me this the other day. We're in the car and we're like a little road trip, and he's like, Shaily, decisions are not your thing. And I'm like, I can do big decisions. Like if somebody has got the right tool that I need, I'm like, yes, I want that. Little decisions like where to go to dinner or what I want to eat, I don't know, is impossible. And maybe this is like a female thing of like, oh, but maybe I want to accommodate them more than I want to accommodate myself. Maybe I want them to answer, or I'm scared I'm going to say the wrong thing. And I'm like, nope, Shaily, just pick. So he's taught me a lot on that. I will say he called this out the other day, and I kind of believe him. He's like, Shaily, you like to get a lot of information all the time. You keep gathering information and not actually deciding things. And I'm like, is that true? And I'm kind of processing it right now. So that's literally also where I am this week. I'm like,
okay,
right? He's seen me over a long period of time. So
well, hey, so it seems like maybe it's more choice and you just don't actually even realize choice over guiding voice. Like you gather the information first to make the decision rather than going with the seat of your pants.
Because I feel like I would seat on my pants more, and I believe in that too.
It's okay to say both.
This is tough. This is a tough rapid fire. I'm like, shit. Sorry, so I swear.
It's okay to swear. It's okay.
This is good. I like it. This is a good challenge.
Totally okay to swear.
I don't know. Decisions are hard. It's why I go to Aldi and I don't go to like a massive store with too many choices. I'm like, you need like a handful of good choices, and it's like less stressful for me.
That's okay. We can just table that one. It'll be good for you to ponder later.
This is good. I'm gonna be processing. I'll tell my therapist. I'm like, I was on a podcast this week. I need to like just learn what I just learned again.
Yeah. How do I decide? Okay, the
Yeah,
last
we're
one.
decided.
The last one is on purpose. This one I've actually recently tweaked. I have a new
Ooh.
curiosity about it. So I'm wondering, do you believe purpose is nature or nurture? Are we born with it, or is it something that comes upon us because of our life experiences?
The nature versus nurture. I don't know if you had this in ed school, but like in education school, that was like a big question
Yeah, it
all
was.
the time. And I was like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
God, you know how to ask the tough ones. Oh man, I like, but you know it's good. It makes me think. Um, Look, I'm sure there's advantages and disadvantages I've had in my life that come from like the environment I grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to give credit to that. Um, but oh, oh man, what else can I say? Like,
It's okay. If you feel
good.
like you don't have the answer, you can pass it. I'm
Can
okay
someone
with that.
call me when somebody answers this? Like, can you curate all the episodes and like what people said on this question? Because I would like to know. I want that episode. If you ever want to piece that together and not have to record anything, just like piece those bits.
I do have. I'll give you the short of it because we have 4 minutes, and I want to leave you to get last words. But a lot of people will say both, which is a pretty common answer, and then
okay,
we laugh about it.
Sure.
You can't really, but people do. I didn't give you the option, but people do. Some people who feel like they have recently come into their purpose and it took them like their whole lives to find it will say that it's something that you find in life. So they'll say that it's nurture, like life dictates it for you and then it happens. And then I find my people who are really spiritually driven will say that it's happens from birth. That like we just need to, everyone has that purpose that they're born with, and then you kind of like come back. So there really is a spectrum. That. Yeah.
I can see that last bit.
Yeah.
I feel like there was always something, and it's like the whole life is like discovering what it is. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I can give you that nugget.
There it is. So we have about 3 minutes left. I really want you to be able. I know. I want you to actually leave us with your final thoughts, your final words, and also let everyone know where they can find you.
Oh man, I am all over the internet. Don't look too hard because you might find some weird social media accounts from like the last 20 years of my life.
The MySpace. Yeah. That's what we got to
find.
MySpace,
Quora, give me my TikToks from 2016. It was there. The best way to get to know me better. Well, I live on LinkedIn. I always post up on LinkedIn. That's my platform of choice. But LinkedIn is my life. I noticed that you're not a LinkedIn junkie
not
yet,
huge
but
on
maybe
LinkedIn.
I can recruit you.
I know.
I know you're there. LinkedIn is a really special place. Like I said, I want people to show off their awesomeness. So I have a collection of all of my favorite LinkedIn profiles, including business owners, including like young students, college students. So you can see examples of what I think are fun profiles so that you can inspire your own ideas and creativity. So you can download that at yoursocialmediasherpa.com. And that's where you get on my lovely email list with all sorts of good social media tips.
I love that. I'm totally going to do that. I'll be part of your email list 100% because as you said, LinkedIn for sure is like my weak point. And I know it needs to be a stronger place for me. I'm just not there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm trying.
I got you. If you want nuggets, I got you. I'm going to send you that thing. I'm going to send you to it.
You have to.
I also always leave people on my favorite social media quote that I did not write, but I feel like is in my core, that social media is about the people, not about your business. Provide for the people, and the people will provide for you.
Amazing. Shaily, thank you so much. I mean, I cannot wait to release this episode. It is jam-packed with amazing content and energy. So it has been such a pleasure. Shaily Hakimian, everyone.
Woohoo!
Thank you so much. And as I end all my podcasts, until next time, let this be the moment.
Thank you. The recording has stopped.